the day, because I got time to at the moment. So let's get straight into it, shall we? Picking up where we left off last night, pretty much. So I've done a little bit offline, off screen. I've kind of tidied up the model a little bit, added in some bits that were not there before. So yeah, a little bit more refinement to do before we move on to the washing step, I think. But we're getting close. It's looking decent. Happy with the result thus far. Okie dokie. And what do we need to do here? Just going to tidy up his purity seal a little bit before we move on to the next step. And maybe there's a couple of other places where paint shouldn't be, which we need to address. So just using a little bit of Vampire Fang, 2 thin coats. Christopher, you are looking at a Dark Angels Blade Guard veteran painted up in Deathwing colours. And we are going to just mix it in a bit because it's going to be too high a value. So a little bit of Skeleton Horde to the mix. And we can start building up these purity seals a little bit. We don't want to completely ruin what we've already put down so far. Christopher, I just got parts to my first army, Space Wolves. Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. The new box set, did you get that one? I mean, that is a very cool box set if you did get that one, and one that I want to get my hands on. Honestly, we're not going to spend too much time on this purity seal, just a little bit, so I'm going to put the camera a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. Not so far away. There we go. Still in frame. I do a quick edge highlight with Vampire Fang. And then we can move on to shading the model with some streaking grime. Oh, you got a couple of models. Wolf Priest, Grey Hunters, and Grimnar. Hell yeah. Still cool. Can't wait till I get my hands on them. That'll probably do it for now. Let's whip out the streaking grime and give this guy a wash. And in the meantime, we can work on another dude. So for those of you that may not know where they're going to end up, or have seen us paint on stream before, this is what we're doing at the moment. We are painting a commission for a client of mine, and he wants Deathwing coloured Dark Angels. So that's where we're headed with those guys. Here's a couple more that we finished so far. Painted up these guys on stream as well. So yeah, happy with how they're looking. Yeah, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Hell yeah, grab yourself a Redemptor Dreadnought. Why not? Those guys are badass. It's wigging out a little bit, so you can fix that. There we go. Too high. There we go. Chris, do I just paint or play? I just paint mainly. I don't really play the game. I prefer to paint for sure. That's my jam when it comes to this. Maybe one day. Another raccoon. Raccoon, hey man, I only just got back into this after a 7-year break. Got any tips for starting fresh? Starting fresh, that's kind of what I did a couple of years ago. Literally just, I'm not sure how much experience you've got, but literally just start painting again, hey. Depends what you want to achieve, really. What is it that you want to achieve? Do you want to work on something specific, or literally just start picking up hobby again? Because then if that's the case, just do it. Get in there and start painting. That's the best advice I can give. Not being too specific, but if you've got specific questions, I can help with that. So we're going to swap the palette for now. Because you don't want to have oil enamel washes on your wet palette, because they don't work well together, oil and water. So best to keep them separate. So this bad boy here is what we're going to be using, and we're going to be thinning it down with some odorless white spirits. Aiden, over on YouTube, how are you, mate? What's happening? You just want to pick it up again and not have them look like they were done in preschool. Well, I would suggest then, if that's the case, watch a couple of YouTube videos on some tips. If you haven't done it in a number of years, I think contrast paints are a good way to just get models looking fairly good fairly quickly. But if you want to improve as a painter, you got to start working on like light placement and highlights and stuff like that. So like, for example, this guy I painted up when I got back into the hobby a couple of years ago, was okay at the time. I thought it was like a good job from where I used to be as a kid. And then since then, I've just kept refining my skills. So we're kind of painting something like this these days. These are the sorts of models that we get to now after just practicing different types of techniques, using airbrush, using paintbrush, using oils, you name it. Just keep challenging yourself, you know. Like this guy here, I was trying to blend on the armor, so I painted like all that armor just with paintbrush to try and get like a gradient effect. That's all you need to start doing, is just like pick a certain element and keep practicing until you're happy with your results. Dennis, what's happening, mate? How are ya? You should be at work. What are you doing? Tuning into this. Vindicated Kriegsman over on YouTube agrees 100%. I just start painting. You might be surprised what you paint like. On my first ever miniature, I tried non-metallic metal and it came out pretty good. Exactly right. You'll surprise yourself, and then you can just keep getting better and better the more effort you put in. It's like going to the gym, I say. You know, you're not going to go in there and lift the heaviest weights if you've never been to the gym before, or you've had a multi-year hiatus. You've got to build those reps in, build those muscles over time. Same with painting. Build those brush strokes and brush control over time. So enough yapping. Let's get to putting some paint on a model. As I said, odorless spirits, streaking grime. I'm going to find my little pipette, and we can take some of that odorless spirit out and mix it together, because I don't like to have it too like straight out of the pot, because if it's straight out of the pot I find it's a bit too thick and stains the armor too much for my liking for what we're trying to achieve here. So excuse the disgusting palette, but I'll just show you, bring it into frame with what I do. Put in a bit of white spirits like that. Open up the streaking grime. Charlie, how are you, mate? Over on YouTube. And literally I'm just dipping a shitty old brush in here. Not too much, I don't want a whole bunch of paint, but that's probably enough for now. And I just start mixing it in with the white spirits. So I'll move that off screen so you can see what I'm doing on the model. I might just add a touch more white spirits in there, keep it nice and thin. So we're going to go literally over the entire model. Nice and quick. Douse this guy in streaking grime. And I'm not varnishing, I didn't varnish beforehand. Just going straight in over the top. You don't need to varnish before this step. I feel like the problems happen when you don't let the paint dry properly beforehand and then you go in for this step and you start removing paint. You shouldn't have any issues if you allow proper drying time in between steps. My love, you're after your laptop, are you? Sure. There you go. No worries. Girlfriend's working from home today. And I have the day off. How good. So I get to hang out with you guys. Cedric, how are you? What's happening, mate? Chris, how many figures do you normally paint at a time? I actually prefer painting one at a time. I'm not a massive fan of batch painting. I like to sort of see more results. And I find painting figures one at a time is more rewarding for me, but I understand that it's a much slower process. When I'm commission painting, I will try and paint more in batch style, but yeah, I get more enjoyment of finishing models pretty much one at a time. So while this somewhat dries, we're not going to leave it for too long to dry. I probably don't have enough time to start on another model, so I've got one here that we're going to end up painting on stream later as well. Maybe not this one, but at another point in time anyway. So while this guy's quickly drying, probably a minute or two, I'll show you kind of where we're at in terms of our collection so far. So the last couple of days and on stream, we've been painting up these guys. These are my own little faction that I've made up the color scheme for. No name yet, but mainly trying to work on a nice grim dark, real battle worn effect, and that's where we have landed with those guys so far. How much is a commission? Asked Chris. It varies, so I charge just on quoting on how difficult the model is and how much time I think I'm going to sink into it. This is a good old flesh terror, charging forward, succumbing to the black rage. Got a black Templar over here. I happy with how this black turned out, because black can be a hard hard color to paint, I should say. So yeah, happy how this guy turned out. We got some Chaos Boys over here. Got my Corn Berserker from the World Eaters. Digging the red tone, happy with how that turned out. We got some nasty looking Emperor's Children over here, which we painted up a few weeks ago now. But yeah, this guy was fun. I liked it. That's probably enough time to start drying on this model. I don't let them dry for that long. It's just enough to stain the armor because we're not trying to make it too grimy. It's really acting as like a shade color. So we're going to go in and start removing that now. And I just use this little foam tool. It's like a makeup applicator. I haven't put anything on it just yet because the paint is still relatively dry. You can just go dry over the top and start removing the paint. Just want to kind of leave it in the recesses where possible. Particularly on the armor points. The other areas not so much, but the armor is the main bits where we want it kept in the recesses. As much as we can. And then as you see in some areas it's actually dried quite fast and it's struggling to remove. To alleviate that, all we're going to do is add a little bit of white spirits to the foam. Just like this. Any tips on a snow or ice base? Tips for that? Depends on, like, I'm assuming it's for your Space Wolves, my friend. I'm pretty sure, is it the Grimdark Compendium or the Feral Painter has a really good YouTube video on those types of bases. So I would give that a Google search and look up that. Some really good tutorials there, probably better than I can explain here. There's a few good products that AK Interactive makes, like snow paste and also like little tiny plastic glass balls that act as snow. So yeah, that would be my tip, is look those up, because I haven't made many ice bases myself, so probably you're going to find the expertise somewhere else on that one. So we've added a little bit of white spirits now, and you can see that it's acting a lot better across the armor and taking away some of that unwanted grime. We can just reapply as needed, like so. It's like on the sword here, it was in areas that we didn't want. So we just wipe it away super quick. This helps bring the armor down into that bone color that we're actually really after as well. So it kind of acts as a retouch shade, but then also as like an overall tint for the armor. Attila the Fun, Valhalla Blizzard looks really nice for snow. I haven't come across that product, but sounds like it could be the one. Ultra Mega Unknown, hello, over on YouTube. Thanks for dropping by. New to mini painting, working on random 3D prints with Walmart acrylics. Any tips? Not sure what the Walmart acrylics are like. We don't have Walmart here in Australia, so not sure how they actually go on. But my tips would be prime the model first, particularly on a 3D print. That'll help the paint stick to it, and try not to work too thick. Thin coats of paint are a lot better because then you don't obscure details, and they just help you learn to like control your paint thinning technique over time, which you'll need if you ever pick up other paints or want to do different styles of painting. Phil Hayes says, hello. How are you, my friend? And Gunnar over on YouTube. For the Emperor.
For the Emperor indeed, my friend.
Okay, so that is kind of where we want to land with that streaking grime. I'm just going to do it one more once over, make sure I haven't left areas that we want to actually remove. And I think we've done most of it, so it's looking pretty good. Maybe just here, a little bit here, a bit too grimy for what we're after. And the underside of his leg. But most people are not going to see that. So it's okay if it's a bit more messy behind there. Sweet. Oh, and a little bit near his forearm. Phil just got up getting ready to go to work. Oh, sorry to hear that, mate. Work is tough. Sorry to rub it in, man. Painting minis while you're having to go get ready for work. I'm sure you'd be rather doing this. Attila is watching me while trying to figure out what color to paint your squid hogs. Ooh. Good. Lots of good choices to be made there. What does the rest of your army look like for those guys? Doom Destroyer over on YouTube. Just got into 40k. Any advice? Doom Destroyer, are you wanting advice on painting or gaming? I'm not sure what you're asking there. And Chance, it's me again. I picked up the Sanguinor and have picked Sanguinius up as well. Awesome, Chance. Hell yeah. Some very cool models. I've never painted Sanguinius, but I've painted the Sanguinor and I've painted Commander Dante as well. And they were fun to paint. Practice my sort of true metallic skills on those ones, which was good fun. Your cat broke Dante and Sanguinary Guard. That is tragic. That is very tragic, man. Alright, we're going to leave that to paint for, to dry for another minute or so while it's still got some of the oil paints and white spirits on the surface, because if we try and paint over the top with acrylics now, it's probably not going to adhere properly. As I mentioned before, they don't mix, so not going to do that at this point in time. So what we can do in the meantime is start picking up some of the details on the other model that I showed earlier, and then we can get it to a stage like you see on the bareheaded guy, like this one. Cromp, is this Dark Angels? Yes, it is Dark Angels. We are painting some Blade Guard at the moment in Deathwing colors. Doom Destroyer, I've just been following the instructions that come in the box and want to get better at painting. Yeah, nice dude. Good ambition to have. I think if you're very new, the instructions in the box are okay. I think what you want to do as a beginner is get the fundamentals down. So base coat, layering, and highlighting is probably going to be your best friend if you want to improve as a painter. I like contrast paints, but they are very limiting if you actually want to improve over time, because you're not practicing the skills of actually figuring out where to put highlights and light placement. So yeah, if you can avoid those, I mean, they look good, but if you really want to improve, challenge yourself to not use any contrast paints on a particular model and just keep working at that for a little bit. But yeah, to start with, a decent paintbrush, make sure you thin in your paints, and just have fun at the start. You know, it's a new hobby. You'll want to stay in it for the long haul, so make sure you enjoy what you're doing. Attila there is painting, we're trying to figure out your squid hog. So you got orc skin tone, bright yellow, green, stuck between purple, blue, or orange hogs. So you got bright yellow, green. Purple could be nice, or a purpley. So could orange. Maybe orange. I think orange for the actual hogs could be pretty cool. Emiliano, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Do you need very stable hands to be good at this? I think it helps, Hijack. I tend to lean into the desk when I paint as well. So even if you've got a little bit of, you know, tremors or whatnot, because I'm not painting up here like this, I will put my weight into the desk because it helps to stabilize my hands, which helps with brush control. Painting Stuttgart in Deathwing colors right now. Hell yeah. How do you do your base for the armor? Asks Adam. Well, if you tuned into some of my other streams, we did those guys. Deathwing colored Sternguard. Literally last night we finished off this guy. Like so. So the armor is made up of 3 colors. It is this one, this one, this one. So you got a base coat of grey-brown. You've got a mid-tone of Vampire Fang, or anything looking like this, and Pale Sand from Vallejo Model Color are the 3 that I used for my airbrush to build up the armor tones. And then, to get this sort of more brown, warm tones in the shadow areas, I shot a little bit of snakebite leather. This is skeleton horde through the airbrush in those particular areas. What else have we got over here? Sorry guys on YouTube, I've seen a few more comments over here, so I'll jump over there. Talking about box art, don't be sad as it's not as good because they've been painting for years. Exactly, you can't compare yourself to others. Red Snake Boy wants Blood Ravens. Maybe one day, mate. Is black a good pro? Is black a good primer to stick to, or should I change colors? I pretty much use black for everything, to be honest, Hijack, because you can do some good zenithal pre-shading, pre-highlighting with black, because you've got a really dark shadow color with the black, and then you can spray white from above, and you can get like a good zenithal prime that way. So I tend to use black. It depends what your goal is. If you're, army painting and you're painting blood angels and you want it just at a tabletop ready standard, kind of like what Chance is saying, like I'd pick like a red primer, because then you're eliminating the step of needing to paint. Needing to paint like a base coat. What's the tool you're using to hold it called? I'm pretty sure this is just like a painting handle. It's actually from Games Workshop themselves. I'm pretty sure that's what the name of it's called. I've been yapping too much, and we have probably let this dry enough to actually start onto it, so there's no need to kill time with the other model. So what we're going to do is start doing a couple of edge highlights on the bone armor, and for that we're just going to use Wraith Bone. Mikeson is new to Warhammer. It's going to start with miniatures, but the intro set I was looking at doesn't have paint included. Do you have any tips? My tip is, depending on what you're painting, most people, when they first get into Warhammer, if they go intro set, they paint Ultramarines, Space Marines. So pick up yourself a couple of brushes. You don't need to go crazy. The Games Workshop brands and stuff are fine to begin with, so you can just start with that. Pick up a couple of paints and literally just start painting. Because if you're new, with any hobby, sometimes you find out early on that the hobby's not for you. So what I'd say is don't sink a whole bunch of money into it until you're certain that you want to keep in it. You know what I mean? And to get a good feel for that, pick up half a dozen paints, start painting, maybe watch a YouTube video or two, and just have fun. Imperial fists all day, every day. Need to build a wall. Need to protect the Emperor. They're your guys. Like these guys. This is what you're talking about, Brandon. These Imperial fists. Standing strong. This guy here. And then this bad boy with his big Hellblaster cannon, plasma cannon thing. I do like painting yellow. Two different types here. One's a bit more muted, and this one here pops. It's quite bold. In Gunpla, there's a thing called panel lining, highlights, crevices. Wondering if it could be used in miniatures, or is it too messy to use in 40k? No, you can 100% use panel lining. That's kind of what we've done here with the enamel wash, but we're doing the lazy method and doing it all over the model and then wiping it away. Because I'm trying to save on time. I'm not panel lining, but you definitely can do that here. And I've done it in plenty of times before. But if we're trying to paint in a more timely fashion, obviously panel lining is probably not the technique you want to go for. Assassin. I don't have the concentration to watch this right now, but I just got the Covenant Throne and Mortar's Engine. I'm just happy to have them again. But your 40k army is Blood Angels. Fair enough, mate. Appreciate the honesty. Sometimes you're just in a TikTok hole and you need to just, keep on moving. And Soul of Shania. Hey, mate, how are you? Good to see ya. Thank you for the heart and the gumdrop buttons. Phil is doing a Farsight army. Any advice on painting red? Advice on painting red? I quite like the red here that I did with my Khorne Berserker. It was super easy. And it literally was 2 coats of contrast paint, Slaughter Red contrast paint, over like a white zenithal highlight. And I think the red here is pretty effective. So yeah, that would be my advice. Try out the Slaughter Red speed paint from Army Painter. Thanks for the follow, Assassin. And Soul of Shania, going good myself, trying to catch up with chores. This is my podcast. I'm glad. I don't know how much enjoyment you're going to get just listening to me when you've got no visuals, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And Phil, thank you for the heart and the gumdrop buttons. You're a legend. Back over on YouTube, what do we got here? Bro, that's awesome. Thank you. You like the veteran that I showed before with the back banner? Yeah, nice, thanks. You want more grandfather Nurgle? Nurgle loves you. He does, in an abusive kind of way, I suppose. Zachary's asking what army we're painting up now. We're painting a commission piece of Dark Angels at the moment. So we're currently painting some Blade Guard veterans in the Deathwing color scheme as requested. How do you paint the hard to reach areas? As Chance has said, you can use long brush and get in there. Or what I would say is paint in a sub-assembly. That also helps. So sub-assembly is when you don't fully build the model and you paint it while it's still in parts. That can completely eliminate that problem for you. I guess me motivated, plus after I'll reward myself with some painting. Very nice, Soul of Shania. Get those chores done quickly so you can hit the painting desk, I reckon. 676, do I play? I don't play, unfortunately, my friend. Mainly just a painter here. Phil needs to pick up some more paints over the weekend. Don't we all? I feel like I'm constantly buying paints, even the ones that I don't need. Because it's like a second shade. Or a shade shade lighter than the color that I already have. And then, you know. But it's so fun. I get to imagine, oh yeah, this is what this model would look like painted like that. And then I just don't have the time to do it. But it's fun to imagine. Little Caesars finished painting up a second Alpha Legionnaire today. Well done. Congratulations to you. Couple more edge highlights here and then we can probably move on to the red. We got some loyalist traitor slander going on in the chat over on YouTube, and I'm all here for it. Yeah, I think that's decent enough. Attila, do I have a plan for basing these guys yet? I don't, and I won't be basing them. As I said earlier, these are a commission, but part of that commission, the guy doesn't want me to base them. He wants to do the basing himself. So we will be leaving the bases blank, and that's why all of the dudes just have a painted black rim base, because it will be a blank canvas for him to do whatever he likes once he receives the models back. Zachary is kind of scared to assemble your first Forge World model. Never touched resin before. Good luck. Resin's a bit tricky. I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. I wish I had more tips, but I have only put together like 1 or 2 resin models, and yeah, not that great from my experience. I just use super glue because you can't use like the plastic glue on it. But yeah, you might enjoy it. Hopefully you do. Nah, all good, Attila. Yeah, I get that question a lot about the basing for these guys in particular. But if I had to choose, I'd probably do something kind of dark, rubbly, like urban. Maybe that's kind of the feel I'd go. Because the rule of thumb that I like to go with is if it's a light colored model, you want to do the bases dark because it helps them stand out, and vice versa. If you've got a dark colored model, do like a lighter colored base because again, it helps the model stand out. If they're too similar in brightness, it kind of melds into one. So that's why you'll see like this Imperial Fist is on like a dark gray because it's a nice bright model, and these white dudes here have like quite a stark contrast in their base color because it really stands out. So it's a good sort of rule of thumb that I like to follow. And I forgot to mention, so we're on to highlighting this red. We are using Evil Sun Scarlet from Citadel as the highlight color. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Someone's coming to the Black Rage. Nice. Doom Destroyer. How do you properly wash your brushes? Mine keep getting gunked up. Rule of thumb like this. See where the paint is on my paintbrush? I wouldn't put the paint any further up because once it starts to get in this section, if I can show you, if it gets too far up in here, you're going to have a hard time getting it out if it dries up there. So try and not have the paint go up more than, half or maybe 3/4 at max the length of the paintbrush. Give it a good lick. I like to do that. That is optional. You don't have to do that because that keeps it nice and straight. Soap. Brush soap is a good one. So I don't do it that often, but when I start to get really gross looking brushes, something like this, brush cleaner, you add a few droplets of water in there and you literally just spush your brush around there like you're washing your hair in the shower, giving your brush a little shower bath. And that should help you go. There's some harder stuff too. You can buy like liquid kind of brush cleaner too, but I've only had to use that a couple of times. And that's when your brushes are really fucked up. But don't let them get to that stage in the first place. Otherwise, that is naughty. So don't do that. Sours, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And yeah, fellow brush licker. Quick is an easy way to keep them pointy, ready to go, and keep your sustenance levels up. Get to taste the rainbow of different paints. Phil's got a good tip over here as well, and Zach, I think you've said it, but make sure to wash all the resin parts in soapy water to get the oils off. That is very true. You do need to give it a bath before you start painting. Which is so lame, like I just want to paint. It's part of the reason why I hate building resin. Looking alright now. Just makes such a difference, a couple of edge highlights here and there. Makes that shit pop, you know? Lol, are those birds you hear? Yes, I've got a flock of birds that live in like a palm tree out the front. They often come here. I've actually been feeding, they come onto my little balcony here. I've fed a couple of them and they like have decided to like start landing on my hand so I can hand feed them. They are rainbow lorikeets. Very cute, but I think they're just having a bit of a chat at the moment. They're not on my balcony or anything. Blessings of the Emperor upon thee. Thank you, Domingo. And which shade did you use for the armor? Asked Vivian. Vivian, we use streaking grime as an all-over wash and cleaned up the model. So this product here, which is not like a traditional acrylic wash, it's an enamel paint. So if you've never used one before, just do a little bit of research on it because it's very different to your traditional like Nuln Oil washes. What time is it down here, down under? Asked Phil in TikTok. It is 2:15 in the afternoon. So getting a bit of a paint session in over lunch. Phone's at 100%, praise the Omnissiah. You're welcome, Vivian. Anytime. Bird Band Junior over here. Yeah, I do like my birds. We had some magpies at our last place that would come and hang out, and I eventually trained them to be able to land on my arm and I could feed them. But they're like fully wild ones and were so scared of us for months, and I just kind of slowly got them used to us. But you can't feed them all the time, otherwise they get dependent on you. Attila, thanks my dude. Go pass out. It's probably late where you are, I imagine. I don't know what time it is in the US, but I think it's probably like midnight or something. So go to sleep. Switching back to painting one model at a time, batch painting 19 at once is for the birds, says Adam. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the batch painting. As I said earlier in the stream, I get more enjoyment kind of painting one model at a time. Oh, 5 AM in the UK. Oof, that's right. Up early for work, aren't you, Phil? Oh snap, it's nearly midnight for me. You're gonna head to bed and get some rest. Have a good one, man. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it. Rest up. Diecast dude, hello my friend. And Crazy Pilot, what song is playing? It is White Scales Stream Beats by Harris Heller is the song. White Scales. Nefarious Blade Guard. Correct. This is a Blade Guard veteran. So we've done the red highlight. We've done the armor highlights. It is now time to highlight some of that gold, but I've just noticed an area where we didn't quite get all the grime off from before, and while it's still somewhat workable, I'm gonna try and get it off with some white spirits. Orc Skin Hobbies, thanks mate, appreciate it. Oh no, we might have to glue his halo back on, it's kind of slipping off. Man down. But that's good. We'll leave that for now. I'll fix that up later. Yeah, the batch painting. It's not for everyone. That's for sure. Corvus Corax is 14 years old and has a bunch of 2k points armies. He's got 5. Very nice. Avid hobbyist. Alright, so to highlight the gold, we are going to use a paint called Peridot Alchemy from scale 75. So this bad boy here is what we're going to use to highlight him up. Orc Skin Hobbies is asking, as someone who's never used enamel paints or washes per se, what would you say is a good trick or way to use them to their full potential? There are so many different ways you can use them. If you're using like an enamel wash, like the streaking grimes of the world, you can use them in different capacities. Like you can put them on really thick and really grime up your models, or you can kind of use them how we have, and they've acted mainly as like a recess shade because it helps with speed painting and tinting the model. So I'm not having to wash the model with like Agrax Earthshade in the recesses and not be worried about it staining the armor in like a weird way that we don't want. That's how I sort of use my enamel washes. Oil paints themselves, you can thin them down enough to be shades and washes that pretty much perform the exact same as like an enamel wash. Or you can use them like this to build up kind of rust streaks if you don't use as much. So like this guy here, these streaky rust looking effects were used with a dot of oil paint, and then you kind of wipe it down like with your paintbrush to pull the streak marks. And that's a really effective way to use oil paints there. If you want more tips on some painters that use oil paints really well and enamel washes, I would highly recommend that you check out the Grimdark Compendium. They've got heaps of videos on YouTube, so check them out. Chance, what type of wash you're using? The one we just talked about before, Streaking Grime, is the one that we used on this model. The enamel wash. And I like this way of painting where you put your base coats on, you give it a streaking grime wash, and then you come in with some highlights of quite a nice brighter color. because it adds a lot of contrast very fast. And you get to a sort of good tabletop standard in a fairly short amount of time. And we just missed that mark. That is sad trombone. We missed the paint and got it on the red. So let's fix that up. Just a wet paintbrush. And we are good as new. How long have I been painting minis? I've been painting minis for a number of years. I've been painting them fairly consistently for the last 3 years. But I picked up Warhammer when I was a kid, back when I was about 9 years old. But I did stop Warhammer altogether through my teenage years. But yes, found my love for it once again a couple of years ago. And I'm glad I did, because it is an awesome hobby. Any advice on making a good pin wash? Asks Phil. Obviously you need to work out what color you want to use. If you're wanting to make just like a black pin wash, I don't have the paint on me, but a very similar one like this, I'd get like an oil paint with black, or you can use a brown wash, for example, like this. Literally you just put it on your palette, a dry palette, not a wet palette, because it's an oil paint. Mix it in and thin it down with this stuff. Again, white spirits or odorless thinner, same thing. It'll work the same. So that's all you really need to do. And you just get a thin brush rather than this manky old thing. You get something that has a sharper tip and be selective with it. People will tell you to gloss varnish, and I'd probably do that if I was pin washing, because it helps the oil paint flow into the recesses a lot easier. So that'll be my little tips. Tyler's just finished building this kit. Hell yeah, dude. Time to paint it up now. Falla, pause bro, pause. Go touch some grass, my friend. Orc skin, going from when you started to now, what was your biggest fear when painting and how did you overcome it? Biggest fear? I think my biggest barrier for a long time was not using an airbrush. You see a lot of people hate on people for using an airbrush, and people say it's cheating and stuff. Like I was like, oh, I'm sure, like, you know, not like I was a hater, but I was like, oh, I don't need an airbrush or whatnot. I can do everything by a brush. And then I just kept watching YouTube videos, and I saw a lot more people using it. I saw some of the great results that could be achieved with it. And then I bit the bullet and bought my first airbrush, and it was the best decision I ever made in the hobby, by far. It just literally opens up so much more opportunity for painting. And I've never looked back. I would encourage anyone who wants to advance their skills to then pick up an airbrush at some point. But to begin with, if you're a beginner, don't get an airbrush. Start with paint brushes and paints. You need to learn the fundamentals first. How much time has this taken? This has taken probably about 2 hours, 2 and a bit to get to this point, maybe 2.5. That's because I was streaming as well, so that takes a lot longer when I'm streaming to paint up models. What's up for the Emperor? Not much, big one. We're just hanging out, painting some models. What recipe do I use for the painting the Deathwing Mohawk? For the armor, I showed it before, I'll show it quickly again. This color here, green brown from AK, Vampire Fang, 2 thin coats, pale sand from Vallejo model color. Shot through an airbrush, building up highlights over time. Now, that's probably it for those highlights. He's looking pretty snazzy. So we can move on to something else now. And I think we might just we'll lay the foundation for the plasma coils. So for that, we're just going to use pure white paint and paint in the plasma coils. And we'll add color to it later once it's fully dried. How do you choose what models to paint? Asks Skinner. If you're asking for yourself, like, choose whatever ones click with you. What do you think looks coolest? That's all that matters. For myself, because I paint a lot of commission, I don't actually have the choice. I just get sent the models and I paint them up. But when I'm practicing, I just choose models that, again, I think look cool, but then will also challenge me to improve in certain areas. Like, what I want to do eventually is get some Stormcast Eternal models and practice my non-metallic metal on them, for example. That's something that I want to do in the future. Sophia, hello, how are you? Thanks for stopping by. Into the wormhole. Do you average a few hours per model, or is it most of your armies just battlefield ready? If I can only do one really good one, then I just slap chop the rest. I mean, that's one way to do it, for sure. I like to try and push my models to do like a what I call is like a premium tabletop standard, because that's just what I enjoy doing. And that's why I don't have a fully painted army, because it takes too fucking long. But yeah, I can spend up to 10 hours on a single model if I really want to. And I have done on a few models in the past. So if you want to check out some of my models that are painted to a much higher standard, you can jump on my Instagram and have a look at some of those guys there, or my website. I've got a gallery there. Skinner, am I getting paid for this? I am. This is a commission piece that I'm working on at the moment, and I do commission, like, paint offline as well. So I don't get a lot of time to paint my own minis. What's my Instagram? Exact same as this, Hobby Fiend. Hobby Fiend is my name and handle on everything. Instagram, TikTok, Google. That is me. You can find me. Sophia is not feeling well. That's not good. Hope you feel better soon. So we've got that plasma coil waiting. We could probably move on to the skin now. For that, we're going to lay a base coat down of Shadow Flesh Pro Acryl. And we want to go nice and thin, particularly on the face, because there's a lot of fine detail on the face that we don't want to clog up with paint. So we need to work thin. Like so. think we went through the full playlist, so let's jump on to the other one. Get some different tunes in here. Not nearly enough paint, says Sergeant Sloth. Are you talking about on the face? If so, that is the goal, mate. We don't want too much paint. You don't want to clog it up. You need to go in a few coats. Otherwise, you ruin all the details. If it's opaque on the first go, or even sometimes the second, you've gone too thick on face. Thanks, Wormhole. I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one. Doom Destroyer, do you have any tips on painting lighting? I'm going to start painting Necrons. Hell yeah, love Necrons. They were my first army when I started. And want to add a bit of shine to them. So you're talking about the metal shine, or are you talking about OSL on like their Gorse weapons? Because if you're talking about OSL like this, there's some really good tutorials. El Miniaturista is the man. He's the goat when it comes to painting OSL, and that's what I did to follow this. Followed his tutorial for something like that, to get that glow effect. If that's what you're talking about when you're talking about shine. Thank you, Rose. I appreciate that. And in terms of brushes that I'm using, I am using Raphael Kalinsky Stable brushes. They are quite spenny. So worth the investment if you're looking to up your painting game, because they last a while and hold their tips very well. And I use these two brushes. So this is rubbed off, or I actually got a bit there. So size 0 and a size 1 are the two brushes that I paint most of my models using. There should be at least 30 layers. That's how I always get them when I buy used models from eBay. Yeah, then you got to soak them in like a shit ton of isopropyl alcohol to peel off the many layers of paint. Been there too. And learnt the hard way of not thinning my paints. Cromp, you have no idea, so I'm making first company Ultramarines. Look, that's still a good idea, mate. As long as you're painting something. While that skin just dries, we can probably come in and do this plasma coil, because it's a super simple step. I'm not painting it to the standard that we are here, because it's a different type of standard that I would paint for this particular model. So for this one, I'm going to keep it fairly simple. We're just going to water down some Caribbean blue. And that will probably do us for the quick, cheap and nasty OSL effect. Valentina, I have a miniature like this, kinda, but the spiky circle thing is on its head. No idea what it is. This, I think it's called an iron halo in the lore. I think it's what you're talking about. Or you could be talking about, do you have the heretical kind of guys? The evil dudes that are full of spikes. And they got lots of trim and gold stuff on them. But yes, very cool models. Yeah, I think this blade guard like this, that a lot of them have these sort of halo things around, and I know some models also have them around their heads as well. But yeah, very cool. And this blue keeps clogging, so I'm going to have to unclog the paint first. Nalgas, thank you for the roses, my friend. Appreciate it. And thank you for the gumdrop buttons. You're a legend. Rose, what guide do I get for the OSL guide? It is El Miniaturista. I think I'm just typing it. It's probably typed wrong, but that is the guide that you want to look up if you want to learn OSL. Don't know how many points of Marines have compared to 10th edition. Back in 8, it was roughly 27,000 points. Jesus, it's a apocalyptic scale. Good shit, dude. Maston Miniatures, thank you for the kind comments, my friend. We'll get there slowly but surely. So I'm just thinning down that Caribbean blue, and all we're going to do is just pop it in like this. Super simple, it's not anything crazy. It's not going to give you the same OSL effect as the other dude that I showed, but I think it still gives a nice decent tabletop standard effect. Goom, Twin, drop a tutorial on how to paint that Deathwing armor. I think I might have to. Yeah, might do a little video on it. I'm also making some PDF tutorials as well, because that's how I learnt a lot of my painting back in the day. Those ones aren't free though, because it takes a fucking shit ton of time to make them. I've only made a couple, but a few people are interested in them. I've made it for my Khorne Berserker, how to paint him from grey to looking like this. I made a guide on that, and I also made a guide on this dude, how I painted him up from grey to yay. So we can probably add a little bit more white into that plasma coil to make it look white hot down here. There we go, happy with that. Do you also have tips about the metal shine too? Delayed because your brother's cat's been a menace. Metal shine, it's kind of like any other product. If you're looking for particular metal paints, I would say Necrons could benefit from this metal color range. They're really awesome paints. Vallejo metal color, so you could do like burnt iron, and then you could do a highlight of Vallejo metal color silver, and your Necrons would be the shiniest boys on the tabletop. So let's start building up. I've just noticed I've missed a little bit on his chin here, underside of his chin. We can start building up some highlights. On his face. Goon, definitely be interested. $5 USD ain't that much to learn a paint scheme like that. Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah, I was kind of looking around. I've seen other people kind of around a similar price point. So that's what I thought. It just helps because it fucking takes ages to make the tutorials, because can you imagine like painting and then you got to stop at every single step and then I got to like turn around and have this studio set up, take photos of it. Yeah, it's a bit of a debacle, but it's fun. Like, I enjoy it. I'm not really in it to like make a shit ton of money. I'm just in it to kind of share the knowledge, and I'm happy to just keep making videos as well, because you know, people enjoy that too, and I enjoy making them, so why the fuck not? E, do I have any full black figures? This one here is probably the one that I do have that I can show you, is this Black Templar. It's kind of a muted black scheme, but I think it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with how he looks. Particularly the shoulder pads. I think it worked out well. One up, 6.7. Don't know what you're on about there, mate. But thank you, E. Appreciate it. So let's start building up this highlight on his face, and to do that we're going to use some beige red and sketch it out. And again, working fairly thin, but not too thin, because sometimes if it's too thin, it starts to run in areas where you don't want it. You like the edge highlights on the Black Templar? Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. Your rating. Rating the paint, rating the model. I'll take a 6.7. Can he do a backflip? Maybe. He's wearing power armor. I'm sure that would boost his legs. Allow him to do a little flip. Just kind of pick out the areas of the face that we think would naturally get hit with light the most. Kind of creates a nice looking effect. It's starting to come together. You can probably see that there on the camera. We can build that up more in a little bit. Any tips for the eyes? It says Corpus KR. Tip is pray to whatever god you believe in, and good luck. No, what I'd say is use a good brush. This one here, I paint eyes with, and I paint everything with. This is still that size 0 Raphael Kalinsky that I use. It has a sharp enough tip that I can paint eyes with. I always begin with the white. That's just my personal preference. I like to start with the white of the eyes. And one tip that I find very useful as well on faces is turn the model upside down when you're doing the pupil, and you actually do like a little line straight down like that to do the pupil, rather than trying to dot it in and mush the brush in. That's how I painted this guy. So if I show you this guy here, I'll zoom in so you can get a better look. Give me a second if I can find the zoom feature. Here we go. Zoom in on this boy. So if you see his eyes, I think they turned out fairly good. And that was using that method of just like a dot of white and then a little stripe of black or brown. But yeah, happy with how he turned out. Jake on art, thanks mate, appreciate the kind comments. And Nalgas, oh dude, I didn't even see all your gifts before. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate them. You are a legend. And you are making it rain with gumdrop buttons. Thank you, dude. So to add in a little bit more highlights, just going to add a dot of white into our beige red mix and go in again and start highlighting a little bit more on the face. Again, being a little bit more selective where we're putting these highlights. Just covering slightly less area with each higher highlight. And that will help build up the volume that we're after. Like so. Doom Destroyer, you are most welcome, mate. Get to bed, 1 AM. Yeah, that's late. Have a good one, mate. Thanks for sticking around for so long. Vivian really likes the Black Templar. The Black Templar you showed at the beginning of the stream was so nice. I really liked the way you painted it. Thank you. I'll show you again, and I'll try and talk through how I painted it. I'll bring it a bit closer so you can get a better look. Because black is a tricky color to paint. So I started off, this isn't just going off memory, so the paints might be incorrect, but how I would go about painting this, if I were to paint it up right now, started with a black primer. Chaos Black is totally fine from Games Workshop. Then the paint that you want to use for the black is charcoal. I'll see if I can find it on my desk. We're lagging. I've lost it. There we go. Hang on, someone's trying to call me. That's why. So charcoal from Vallejo Game Color through the airbrush adds a slight gradient, which still looks like black when you're looking at it. Like this still reads as black. And that kind of built up the volume. Then for an edge highlight, I think just looking at that, I used maybe something like dark gray from AK. Not 100% sure what that gray is, but I'd just experiment for that. You can even use maybe something like Eshin gray. And that's pretty much it for the armor. We did a wash of the entire model once we'd done the other elements with like a sandy colored, almost like the same color as the base, but not the same product, but the color wise was very similar, to get that dusty effect in all the recesses. And that was an enamel wash, and that's how we sort of did the black. But yeah, quite happy with him. Didn't take that long, but the result I think is quite nice. Corpus, you are very welcome for the tip. Hopefully it helps. Good luck when you do your own eyes. And Jay should do microsurgery, then brush strokes be fine. Thanks, dude. I'm not smart enough to be a surgeon, that's for sure. That's probably why I do mini painting instead. I would crumble under pressure as a surgeon, I reckon. So again, I'm just adding a little bit more white to our beige mix to keep building up the highlights on the face, and always keeping them nice and thin. It's coming together quite nice. I think we're getting a decent effect for fairly minimal effort. And then we can just do some hair very soon. What is the best piece I've painted? Asks, what is your name? It's Flea. It's Flea. I'm quite proud of my Night Rampager that I painted, probably about a couple of years ago now. I've got it on my Instagram if you want to check it out, or on my website. I think I've got it in the gallery section there. I'm also very proud of Commander Dante that I painted up a little while back too. I don't have those models on me because they were commissioned paint jobs, so they're back with their rightful owners. But yeah, I'd have to say probably those two were some of my favorite paint jobs. So let's pick out, I think that's probably good for us, like a decent standard of skin. We might even just shade. I'm just having second thoughts here. It's probably a little bit too dark in some of the shadow areas of the face, so I'm going to glaze in a slightly lighter color. See if we can alleviate that just a little bit, not too much, but just enough. I think that's a tad better, just a bit too harsh. Yep, that's the one, that's what we wanted. Hell yeah, Mike. That's it. Probably paint for another half hour, I think. When we hit the 2 hour mark, we might call it a day for now and maybe come back on later tonight, but hell yeah. Back over on YouTube. Just started 40k this year and chose the Orc Boys. Wish I could share some of my miniatures. Is there a way to send you some pics? I'm thinking of doing a Discord and then people can start sharing pics there, because I think it's a good way to, you know, chat with each other and share advice. So maybe I might look at doing that. I've got time this afternoon. Maybe I'll look at how to set one up. Vivian, thank you, my friend. You've been very kind this stream. I'm glad that you're enjoying my work. And same to you, Zachary. So for the hair, I think we're going to go with that sort of black, grey, speckled look. Showing his age somewhat, you know. Very distinguished gentleman, this guy. So we'll start with just a plain black as the base coat for his hair. And that is Vallejo Model Color Black. That's what we're going to paint it up with. And then we can build up sort of the grey highlights in a moment. Careful not to get it on our face. We don't want to destroy all that hard work. So we've got most of that. He kind of looks like Mickey Mouse at the moment with his stark black hairline. And that will change very soon. Sweet. Alright, that's a good base coat for his hair. Let's make it not look so plastic. And to do that, we can start adding some texture to it. So at the moment, it just looks like he's wearing a shiny black helmet. It's not actually hair. RJ Games. When using cork for the bases, do you pin? Been making some guardsmen, and I'm on the fence of pinning them or not. No, I don't. This is a commission, so he has gone in and pinned it himself, as you can see. Because I believe he wants to take them off the bases and then paint the bases in his own scheme. So that's why with our finished models over here, we've left the models blank. Sorry, the bases blank, so he can do that. When I'm painting my own models, I don't. I just have it glued on all at once and just go for it. If you're trying to get models done quickly, you're just going to be sinking time if you're pinning them and gluing. It depends what your goals are. NTRDR reminds me of Hammerhead from the old Spider-Man animated series. I don't know who that is, but yeah, as I said, it kind of looks like some sort of cartoon character at the moment with his hair like that. So, I mentioned this paint before for black. Let's try it out on this. We'll go charcoal up in value for his hair. I don't expect to see much of a difference, but it'll be subtle enough to then build upon later on. So I just want to build up a bit of texture too. So I'm going to kind of tap at the hair, as you can see, because that will naturally help build up a bit of texture rather than doing smooth paint strokes. That tapping motion is a good little tip. It's called stippling, is the technical term for it. As you can see, that didn't do much at all. And all we want to do is keep going, just up in value. So I'm adding a gray color. I'm not going to tell you what one it is because honestly, it doesn't even matter. And that's sort of how I paint. Don't have to go off the paint color names and whatnot. You just literally need to go off what it looks like. So a lighter gray, or you can just make your own mix by adding white. That's what we're going to do. And while it's still wet, it's fine, because then the stippling also then is kind of doing two techniques at once. We're doing a bit of wet blending too, which is totally fine, because hair kind of overlaps and links in. We'll get a decent result by doing this. And we're going to slowly cover less area over time, because that's how you build up highlights and volumes, is by getting the slight bits of slightly brighter in certain sections instead of just painting over what was previously done. So you can see that's already looking a lot better than his black shiny helmet that he had earlier, and you can sort of see the little bits of texture that we've started to create with those irregular brush pattern strokes. That stippling effect. This is awesome. Your average internet troll. Do I sell these? I do actually. This is for a commission paint job that we're working on. So this will be going to someone once we are finished. Looking cool, says Rabbi. Never got the stippling technique down. Yeah, I mean, it's just a bit of experimenting. Just takes practice. Just got to keep at it, and you will get there, no doubt. And like, we're not going for perfect stippling here. We want it quite rough, because it's not a display piece that we're painting here. Just enough to make it look cool. And hair is naturally kind of shiny, so we do want to have it fairly shiny up the top, because that's where the light would be hitting his head the most. Right up here. TB, I'm guessing there's no actual texture in his hair then? No, my friend. It was as smooth as... It looked like he was wearing a smooth helmet, so we've just built up that texture ourselves with some stippling effects, if you can sort of see that now. Kind of looks like he's got some strands of hair in there. And we might just slightly edge highlight a little bit that bit of the hair here. If we can get it nice, that would be great. Don't want to fuck it up. Kind of like how you can make some of the cloaks and some of the really good painters make their robes and tabards look like Hessian almost. They just have a really good knack for painting texture on smooth surfaces to emulate the look of texture. Miss, I can't read your, is it Casey? Miss Casey? You made the fabric hanging from his armor look real. It's amazing. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. With kind of a similar effect with what we're doing with the hair there, but not so much of a stark jump in contrast value, which is how we got that. More of a smooth blend, but still a little bit of texture. So I'm glad you noticed that. Thank you. So I think his face and head is looking pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. We can probably attempt to do the eyes on stream. So let's try that. I've painted lenses on stream, but I don't think I've painted actual eyeballs. This could be very horrible, because normally I paint very close up to my face when I'm painting eyeballs, and I can't do that if I am streaming. But YOLO. So there we go. I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can get a better look. We're going to use the same white that's on our palette. Nice and thin. Same paintbrush too, size 0. Raphael Kalinsky Sable. Let's see if I can do this. Try and keep it in view as well. God, this is hard. All right, we can work with that. We can work with that because we can refine the edges. I'll take it. And this one over here. This is a bit harder too because his shoulder pad is slightly blocking it. So it's making the angle of attack a lot harder. Typically what I do is I wouldn't have these heads glued in. I would paint them separately on like a little toothpick. In sub-assembly, it just makes it so much easier to get into these hard to reach places. I think that is okay for painting on stream. Those eyeballs, for now, look alright. So what I'd do is I'd take my dark skin tone color and to refine it a little bit in the areas where we might have gone a bit too fat with our paintbrush. We just want to fix it up slightly. So there in the corner of his eye, that refines that eyeball. This one up here is kind of giving him some white eyeliner by accident, so let's remove that by painting in a bit of skin color. So that's looking alright. Now what we want to do is paint the pupil. To do that, again, I'm going to use that charcoal color. Nice and thin. And I think I said this earlier, but we're actually going to turn the model upside down and use like a pulling motion. And see if I can show it on the stream as well. It's going to look a bit gross because of my hand, but YOLO. Hopefully that stays on screen. If it doesn't, I apologize. I don't see any other way around it. No. It's okay, we can also always go back in and touch it up. So I'm just going to try and get it done. So that pupil hit his like eyebrow. Again, because that angle of attack is just too hard with the bloody shoulder pad in the way, which is fine. We can go up for the tidy up in a little bit. But for now, this one might be a little bit easier to get. Fingers crossed. That's better. So that looks decent on the right, on this left side, but his right, we can refine that a bit more too. I'm going to fix it up, so I'm going to zoom out and try and fix it up. You're never going to get eyeballs perfect. There's always refinement that needs to be done. I've learnt that in my time. It's just the nature of the game. Unless you're an absolute wizard, which some people are, but I'll never get it first go. Always mess some bits of it up, and that's fine. Very impressive, able to paint from that angle. Thank you guys, appreciate it. And what brushes do I use for precise details? Ask Gabriel. I'm using a size 0, and we've been painting pretty much the entire model using this one paintbrush. So as you can see, we can paint small details like eyeballs with the one paintbrush. It is a size 0 Raphael Kalinsky Sable. I think what I'll do is refine it off screen, particularly this eye here. It's just too hard to paint on stream and get a decent result, because I'm going to have to take it right up to my face. But that's okay, I'm pretty happy with this eyeball on the right, or left for you guys. Looks decent. In terms of the power sword, we might just highlight it quickly with some silver, Vallejo metal color silver. Nothing too crazy. And not sure what he wants for the power nodes, but I'm assuming it's going to tie in with the plasma gun that we got, so I might just do a little bit of blue around that little power node on the power sword. Cool. Probably can't see it that great on the camera, but it is highlighted up. The silver kind of just washes out with the camera that I'm using. That's okay. So again, it's very similar to the plasma gun. We're going to thin down that white and use it as like a glow effect around the power node, like so, like this. And this on the underside, same thing. This will help do cheap and nasty glow effect, but it still looks pretty good. He who must not be named. What army is that? Looks like Dark Angels. You are correct, my friend. Dark Angels indeed. Blade Guard Vet painted up in Deathwing colors. Anita. Looks cool. How long does a piece take you to paint? We're probably at about 3 and a bit hours on this guy, because I've been painting him on stream. If I were to focus on him purely, I could probably get that down to about 2-ish, maybe 2.5 hours, I reckon, start to finish. Well, that should be somewhat dry now, so let's just go in with this blue paint. Make that power node glow. And then we can go in, refine it a little bit. Like so. Looks like electric power glowing through his aptly named power sword. Just tidy it up with some more silver as well, which I think will do. Particularly around here, it's kind of went a little bit too far out, so we'll just pull it back in a fraction. So see how that's looking on the underside? Looks like it's glowing. That's the effect that we're wanting. For a fairly quick step, I think it's worth it. The effect looks fairly good. Anita, do I use a magnifying lens sometimes? I don't. I don't use a magnifying lens at all. I don't like them. They make me feel motion sickness. So no, I don't use them. Miss. I think it's Casey. I'm going to say it anyway. Miss Casey. Only just getting into Warhammer, but not sure where to start exactly. Any advice? If you're just starting, I would advise you to pick up the models that you think look coolest. So that's the best way to do it, because you will enjoy painting them. Pick up 1 or 2 brushes, probably at least 2 brushes. Something like this, like a larger size 1 and a size 0. They don't need to be these fancy ones. You can get ones from Games Workshop themselves if you want to, or from your local hobby store, fairly cheap. So you could look at those, and just a couple of paints, and just start painting, keep practicing, and have fun. That is literally the best tips if you're just starting out, because what you don't want to do is sink a bunch of money into something that 6 months later you've lost interest in, which happens sometimes with hobbies. Hopefully that's not the case with Warhammer. Hopefully you stick for it for the rest of your life and become a crack addict like us. Plastic crack is our jam. But yeah, that would be the worst, is if you sink money into something that you'd end up then not picking up again. So take it one step at a time. Imagine some UV paint on that glow effect. Yeah, you can. I probably won't go that hard on that. I don't know if you saw it before, Miss Casey, but this one here is kind of when you actually really try for the glow effects, you can get a result like this, and that has a UV bit of paint in that. But we're not painting to that standard with this model. We're just taking it to just to a tabletop level. So yeah, that, very happy with that result. But yeah, different styles as well. Like this one here, I was trying to do glazing effects with his armor and skin tones. So yeah, appreciate it. Thank you guys, beautiful work. Decon Man, appreciate it, dude. You're a legend. 4 years in the hobby as well, sick. Do you only do gaming models or other mediums also? I've only really painted Warhammer, to be honest, Anita. I just enjoy it. I like the quality that they produce, and I like the lore, so that's what keeps me interested and keeps me wanting to paint. So yeah, and also like if you look at the power sword, this is a different type. We spent a bit longer on it too, and you can see how I've done like a lightning sort of crackle effect on it. But we're not aiming for that sort of standard on this dude here, so we're going with kind of basic. Why don't you use a spray paint for the glow? He who must not be named, I do on these guys. So you can see how it's kind of glowing on his arm and chest. So that was using a bit of spray ink through my airbrush to get that effect, and that halo around as well. So I do use that as a technique. Marcus, thank you. So let's do a little showcase, and then I'm probably going to have to call it there, because we have been live for about 2 hours now, and I need to go eat some lunch. So recap, this bad boy here, we're pretty much finished for the moment. As I said, we don't need to finish the base on him, so this will do, and hopefully our client is happy with him. So happy with that result. We've painted these guys up on stream previously. Real sort of grimdark look, grimdark effect. And happy with how they're turning out. Showed an Imperial Fist before. This is a different Imperial Fist with a slightly different paint scheme. I created a tutorial on how to paint that, which is available on my website as a PDF guide. I painted my contentious white Black Templar right here, because he's a Black Templar in white armor. And yes, before anyone says, I know that the White Templars are a thing as well, but this guy is not a White Templar. He's a Black Templar in white armor. So that's another finished one. I've got a Nurgle boy over here that I was experimenting with some contrast paints and some effect paints, namely the rust effects and some of the verdigris effects. So that's him there. Got a raptor over here, where we kind of Again, was focusing on the weathering effects rather, and quite happy with how his lens has turned out. I think that blue glow looks sick. So yeah, one of my favorite lens paint jobs on my models to date. What else is there? I showed the Black Templar before. I've got here, I showed this one earlier too, but I'll bring it back out. The Khorne Berserker. Oatmeal, thank you, appreciate it. You like the Raptor. I've got a few as well, I'll show you. So that's the Khorne Berserker that we've painted up. This one's missing his backpack, I showed him before with the face, but he's in the white and blue scheme. And then I've got a couple of Emperor's Children right here, painted up. So you can see, like, I can get eyes, guys, I can do the eyes. It's just a lot easier to paint when they're not on stream. So this guy has his eyes painted properly. Or if they're just big black balls like this, a lot easier to do as well. Real like monster looking eyes, good fun. And I've got a Skelly Boy here as well from Age of Sigmar. So I got a couple of questions. Do I paint orcs at all? To comment, I've got 1 or 2 orcs here. I have 2. This one here, on TikTok, it will show as a green screen because his skin is too green. I promise you it's not like rainbow colored in real life. But on YouTube, I think it's looking fine. So yeah, I painted up this orc. Kind of through some swamplands was my envision for that guy. And this one here is a different tone of green, a bit more cartoonish green. But yeah, I had fun painting those guys up. Raptors, I was going to show you. So this was my other raptor that I have painted up. And I was trying to go for a real pale white skin, given they're like Raven Claw successors. So that's the skin tone that we got there. Very similar with the armor look. This is a slightly different take on raptors, and this was my meme marine that I made for a kind of stupid video on TikTok, because someone said my raptor didn't have enough pouches, so I gave him enough pouches, and that was the result. So yeah, that is our little showcase. I'll put a couple of models here while I continue to just read through some of the comments. So at least you can look at something while I'm talking. The patina on the off-white looks cool. Not a painter, looks rustic but clean. Not sure, I think you're talking about these dudes, maybe? These ones here. Like the off-white, yeah, we're really trying to focus on that off-white grimdark look, and I think we got there with them. Are the paints crazy expensive to buy? They can be, Anita. Yeah, it takes a lot of time and money to get a paint range like I have. I've collected lots of paints over the years. Thank you, Miss Casey, appreciate it. Back over on YouTube, we've got a few more comments here. Hello, can you help me? What is the color of sigil on the chest plate of Deathwatch? Thank you. I have no idea. I've never painted a Deathwatch. I'm sorry, lad. Thank you, Oatmeal. Vivian, really talented. I don't like the Emperor's Children, and you made them look nice to look at. I'm glad. Thanks. That's a kind comment. The Conman loves painting orc skin, super satisfying. Hell yeah, it is satisfying. Do I paint Dark Angels? Yeah, we were actually painting one up on stream. I'm not sure when you joined, Oatmeal, but this is a Blade Guard veteran that we had just finished painting on stream for the most part. A couple of things left to refine, but That's him in Deathwing color scheme. And then here's some of the Stern Guard, again, Deathwing color scheme that we'd painted up on a couple of other streams. How long does it take me to complete one? Depends on what level of paint job you want to paint to. But anywhere between like an hour to 3 hours to 10 hours. Typically, to this standard, I think we spent probably 3 hours and a bit all up on this bloke. And that's what we got out of that work. But I was painting on stream, so that makes it a little bit slower as well. I inspired you. Oh, thank you, Anita, and thank you for the gift. I am very appreciative of the gumdrop buttons. And Miss Casey, have you painted any Sisters of Battle? I haven't, unfortunately. That is one faction that I have not gotten to. There are a couple more, but that is one of them that I've not painted yet. So, on my to-do list. Bryce, Kunzi, want to send you a picture of a mini to get your thoughts on the paint job. Where can I send it? I'm looking at setting up a Discord. So potentially once I send it up, you can send it through to me and anyone else who joins in there. But in the meantime, if you want to DM me on Instagram, by all means, go ahead. It's the same as I am here on YouTube. Hobby Fiend. Same logo, you'll see it. I return to continue my reign, says Cybo. You're returning, but we're on the final minutes of the stream, unfortunately. I'll be calling it in a couple of minutes. So unfortunately, Cybo, you've come right at the end. And Oatmeal Slushy, those look great. What's your bone-colored armor painting recipe? Bone-colored armor recipe is right here. Grey-brown from AK as the base coat. Vampire Fang, 2 thin coats, mid-tone. Pale Sand, Vallejo model color as your highlight color, all through the airbrush. And then what I did was pick out some shadow areas with Skeleton Horde. So this is what it kind of looks like on after that step. So you can see the transition here from dark to bright, sort of bony color. And then the shadow areas I picked out using Skeleton Horde is that kind of browny yellow tone that you see. And that is what we'll paint up next time as well. Because essentially, over the last stream and a half, it went from this to that. Jane Doe, do I still have my first model I've painted, and how long did it take you to develop a skill level like you have now? Good question. The oldest model I have on me at the moment is this one here, and I painted this up when I was about 12 or 13. So you can tell he's an old school Space Marine. And the paint, particularly the white, is very thick, but I was happy with the paint job back in the day. Then I took a long break through high school and stuff. I didn't really paint or play. But then a couple of years ago, I got back into it, and this was my model after that big hiatus. So you can see a bit of an improvement. I'm an adult now, I was painting, and this was the result, which I was very happy with. So that was probably about 3.5 years ago now, when I just wanted out of the blue to paint something. Bit of nostalgia, so that was the result. Then I picked up my first Primaris Marines, and these are the results here. So I painted up the Black Templar dude. You can tell it's quite... It was going for like the box art scheme, but I missed the mark on the blue armor. Oh, sorry, the black armor. It looks a bit too blue. But still, I was improving and practicing. And then here, from the same kit, I decided to try a different approach to the black armor, and this is no airbrush. I was just using a paintbrush to build up the volumes. So yeah, Vivian, you've got to go. Thanks for the stream and enjoy your meal. Appreciate it. Thank you for sticking around for so long. You're a bloody legend. I'll see you next time, hopefully. So yeah, that was that dude, and then I just kind of improved over time. I really took it seriously probably the last 3 years, and just keep improving, watching YouTube videos, reading guides and whatnot. That's kind of how I learnt. Adam, do I have Joy Toy models? I don't, unfortunately, my friend. That's one thing I do not have. You are very welcome, Jane. Thank you. Appreciate it. And you have a good day too. That's probably going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around for so long, hanging out with me, painting. I may jump on a little bit later tonight if you guys are still around. But I appreciate your presence nonetheless. Take care. Have a good one. See you guys. Bye.